Tell me about the voice.
It was an old lady, sort of muttering, mumbling to herself. You could never make out any words, and it was just like a constant stream.
Is there a possibility that Toddy hears something and it's just a random noise, and he thinks that sounds like an old woman? Mm-hmm. He says to you, I heard an old woman, and then you all start hearing an old woman.
I struggle with it just because of the length of time she was talking. It wasn't just a random sort of half sentence. This would go on and on.
You're telling me this really calmly at the moment, but I mean, that feels deeply unsettling to have a voice in your house that you can't place.
It was. The three of us would try and sit in the same room in the hope that the voice would go away. A couple of times we investigated. But if you went into the kitchen, it would stop. There would be nothing. I felt this really strong sense of presence, as if something was watching me.
Something or someone?
Something. Sometimes we would hear furniture moving upstairs from Deborah's room.
And would anything have moved?
No. After that, that's when things really started to kick off. One day, Deborah and I were sitting on this sofa we had in the kitchen. We had a cake tin on the table, and we were just chatting, and then this cake tin just moved.
What kind of distance are we talking?
It literally moved from one side of the table to the other.
How?
We couldn't explain it, still can't explain it.
There'll be people watching, saying this is fundamentally impossible. This cannot have happened. You are either mistaken or you're lying. What would you say to that?
I can understand why people would say that, but I know that it happened to us, and we were both there and we both witnessed it.
How does it actually feel to witness that?
Terrifying, because you're living in that house. It was, yeah, absolutely terrifying. One night, I heard a voice in my room. It came from the foot of my bed, and it wasn't the old lady this time. This was a man. And he said very, very clearly, you think this is it, but it's not.
Whoa.
My room was next to Deborah's. I desperately wanted to run into her room, but I couldn't move.
You think this is it, but it's not.
But it's not. So we were very, very afraid.
What do you do?
Well, this is where we fell back on our faith backgrounds, and every night we would have a prayer session, asking for protection, just so that we could feel safe going to sleep. It was on a rota,
Okay.
prayer by rota.
So most students have a rota about who's going to do the washing
Yep.
up. You've got one about who is going to pray to try and ward off this thing in your house.
Yes. We'd clear the kitchen table, and we would put candles, a crucifix on the table, and we would pray. We believed that it would take whatever this thing was away.
Did it work?
Initially, we felt a lot calmer, but then it was my turn to lead the prayer session.
May your holy angels dwell here to keep us in peace.
And
Blessing be upon
as I was reading, Deborah and Toddy
you. Beseech you,
started shouting at me,
drive far from it all
telling me to
snares of the
stop.
enemy. Through Jesus
You know,
Christ,
Heather, stop. And we could hear this hysterical laughter in the room.
Oh my God.
It was horrendous.
Where is the laughter coming from?
It was just in the room with us. I can remember it now. We were sitting at the table, and it was to one side of us, coming out of the space.
That's terrifying.
Whatever it was, hated the fact that we were confronting it. It was, for me, just a reaction to the fact that we were trying to do something about it, trying to challenge it, I suppose.
You felt like this thing didn't like you praying.
Yes, very definitely.
If you had to give this thing a name, what would you say?
I would say it was evil.